The night was black as ink, the kind of darkness where the horizon dissolved into the sea and sky became one endless void. The small vessel cut through the waters with no light, no trace, just the hum of its engine swallowed by the waves. Inside, a woman sat with wrists tied, her face bruised, salt drying on her lips. Her name was Lieutenant Alexandra Hayes, a naval intelligence officer who had seen too much, who knew too much, and for that, her own comrades had turned on her. She had uncovered a betrayal that reached higher than anyone dared to believe, a smuggling operation masked as a black ops mission, commanders pocketing millions, weapons disappearing into the hands of enemies. She had filed the reports, collected the evidence, but in the shadows of war, truth is more dangerous than bullets. They decided she had to vanish. The betrayal was quiet and methodical. It was not the enemy that tied her hands, it was men she once trusted, men who wore the same flag on their shoulders. They dragged her to the deck, the ocean breeze biting her skin, and one whispered in her ear, "Nobody will find you. You never existed." With one brutal shove, she was pitched into the freezing Atlantic waters. Her body hit hard, the salt burned her eyes, the rope cut into her wrists, and then came the pull of the deep. Panic clawed at her throat, lungs burning, the weight of betrayal crushing heavier than the waves themselves. For long seconds, she sank, struggling against the binds, air exploding from her chest in frantic bubbles. The sea was supposed to take her, to keep her. But Alexandra Hayes was no ordinary officer, she was forged in steel and storm, her spirit sharpened in every trial life had dealt her. She bent her wrists until the ropes cut skin, twisted until bone felt like it would snap, and with a surge of sheer desperation, she slipped one hand free. The ocean was still dragging her down, darkness closing in, but freedom sparked fire inside her. She clawed upward, broke the surface, and gasped as the night sky cracked open with air and moonlight. No ship in sight. They were gone, already believing she was buried in the sea. She was alone, freezing, battered, and yet alive. Every wave tried to pull her under again, but she refused. She kicked, floated, and prayed. Hours passed. Dawn broke. And when her body was almost ready to surrender, a fishing trawler out of North Carolina spotted the wreck of a soul clinging to survival. They hauled her aboard, fed her water, wrapped her in blankets, and asked her name. She didn't tell them the truth. She couldn't. "Call me Anna," she said, voice rasped. Because Alexandra Hayes was supposed to be dead, and for now, she would remain dead until the time came to return. In the days that followed, she healed in silence, the fisherman keeping her secret. She cut her hair, hardened her body again, and studied the betrayal she had suffered. But she knew this was bigger than herself. The men who threw her overboard weren't working alone. They were part of a chain, a shadow network within the Navy, feeding weapons into black markets, pocketing money soaked in blood. She needed proof. She needed allies. And most of all, she needed to strike back. But she couldn't simply walk into headquarters with accusations. Her own file had already been erased, her death staged, her record wiped clean. She had to build her war from the outside. So she disappeared, vanished into corners of the country where whispers traveled faster than orders. She made contact with a man she once trained beside, Marcus Kane, a Navy SEAL with a reputation for loyalty deeper than the ocean itself. He had lost faith in command long ago, suspicious of the corruption creeping like rot through their ranks. When Alexandra revealed herself alive, when she put the evidence before him, the coded ledgers, the falsified supply routes, the faces of men they once trusted, Marcus didn't hesitate. "If they wanted you gone, Alex," he said, "then you're the only one they truly fear. Let's make them regret it." Together they reached out to others, men burned by betrayal, brothers who had seen their missions compromised by someone pulling strings in the shadows. One by one, they gathered a small force, not official, not sanctioned, but bonded in truth. SEALs, Marines, operatives who chose loyalty to country over loyalty to corrupt leaders. Alexandra trained harder than ever, carving muscle into memory, turning rage into focus. Night after night, she worked with the team, drilling raids, rehearsing infiltration, sharpening every edge of their blade. Her survival had not just been luck, it was destiny. And destiny now demanded vengeance. The twist came when Alexandra learned the scale of what she had uncovered. The smuggling wasn't just about stolen weapons. It tied into a secret meeting at sea, a transaction with foreign mercenaries, the exchange of crates not just filled with rifles, but with experimental technology, classified prototypes worth billions. The deal was set to happen off the coast, in international waters, under cover of a humanitarian supply run. The very same men who had tried to drown her would be there, completing the betrayal. This was no longer just about revenge, it was about stopping treason at its highest form. So she made the plan. They would intercept at night, come out of the water like ghosts, and strike before the deal was complete. Every detail was measured, every risk calculated. For Alexandra, it wasn't just a mission, it was justice. She would show them that the woman they drowned had risen again, stronger, and she wasn't alone. She was leading the very kind of raid they thought she'd never live to see. The night of the operation was a mirror of the night she had been cast away, dark, ocean stretching endless, only the whisper of waves to keep them company. But this time, Alexandra wasn't bound and helpless. She was armored in black tactical gear, night vision locked in place, rifle balanced in her hands. Around her, the seals floated silently in the water, fins cutting like knives, weapons sealed in waterproof cases. The ship loomed in the distance, lights faint on the horizon. That was the stage of betrayal, the altar where her death had been signed. And tonight, it would burn. They advanced in silence, climbing the hull with grappling hooks, moving like shadows across steel. Alexandra's heart pounded not from fear, but from clarity. Every step brought her closer to the men who had betrayed her. Every breath was a reminder of the air she wasn't supposed to be breathing. They reached the deck, spread out, weapons raised. The crew inside was laughing, unaware of death circling them. The first strike was swift, seals breached the control room, silenced guards before alarms could sound. Crates were seized, codes confirmed. And then Alexandra herself stepped forward into the light of the deck, facing the officer who had whispered in her ear before tossing her into the sea. His eyes went wide, disbelief twisting into horror. "Impossible," he muttered. "You're dead." Her voice was calm, sharper than the edge of her blade. "You should have made sure." The firefight erupted like thunder. Bullets tore across steel, shouts echoed, explosions lit the deck in fire. Alexandra moved with fury and precision, cutting through enemies, her seals backing her with unbreakable force. Every second was a clash of fate, the sound of justice grinding corruption into ash. One by one, the traitors fell, until the officer who had tried to erase her stood cornered, his weapon trembling. She aimed steady, the memory of cold water burning in her veins. "This time," she said, "the ocean won't keep me. But it'll take you." And with one pull, she ended it. The raid was victorious. The stolen technology was secured, the mercenaries captured, the ship reclaimed. At dawn, Alexandra stood on the deck, staring at the rising sun painting the waves in fire. She had been betrayed, drowned, erased, but she came back, not as a victim, but as a leader, a warrior who turned her own death into rebirth. The Navy would never speak of this mission. The files would remain in shadows. But those who fought beside her would never forget. And in her heart, Alexandra Hayes knew the war wasn't just against enemies abroad, it was against betrayal within. She would keep fighting, because the ocean had given her back for a reason. They tried to drown her at sea, but she came back leading a Navy SEAL raid, and her story was only just beginning. So now I ask you, where are you watching this from? Which part of the country are you tuning in from tonight?